Welcome back to another Soul Powerful Saturday. I am Dr. Makita Moore, the CEO and founder of the Soul Powerful Wellness Collective. This is a virtual space to meet your mental and spiritual health needs. During today's session, we are going to begin our 5-part series on identity shifting. And for today, we are going to start with how to build self-awareness. So before we jump in, we'll start with some grounding, some meditation, okay? And then we're going to get into today's topic. All right, so let's go ahead and get comfortable. Maybe you're just waking up, maybe you're just starting the day, or maybe this is a break in your day. We'll take a moment to center ourselves and ground ourselves, which will help to quiet our minds and open our minds, prepare us for new learning. So as we sit here present in this moment, we're going to take some conscious breaths to relax our bodies and further ground us into the now, bringing us into our bodies, into this moment, connected in this present space. So let's take a deep breath in, breathing in deep through the nose and releasing it out. Feeling at ease, feeling calm, feeling open. Let's take another deep breath in, breathing in nice and deep through the nose. And as we release, releasing any busyness, anything off the mind that no longer serves us in this moment. Let's take another deep breath in, breathing in deep through the nose. And as we release, feeling relaxed, arriving in our bodies, feeling that sense of connection to your bodies, doing a brief check-in, doing a scan of the body, starting at the very top of your crown as you continue to breathe, bringing your focus at the very top of your head, and just scanning down, just noticing how the body feels, noticing your energy as you scan down, scanning all the way down to the base of your feet. Take a deep breath in and release it out. Here in this moment, filling into the significance of this moment, of being exactly where you're meant to be. Feel the relief of knowing that you are on the right path. Feel the relief of knowing that you are supported in your journey. And feel the relief of knowing that all the resources you need for your journey are always available to you. Take a deep breath in and release it out in gratitude for the sacredness of life, for the opportunity to create our life consciously, for the opportunity to become more and more self-aware. Because as we become more aware of ourselves, we gain greater understanding of ourselves and therefore this world that we operate in. Take a deep breath in. And as you release it out, dropping all judgments, dropping all fear, dropping anything that separates us from the truth. Today, as we explore the topic of self-awareness, we commit to proceeding through life aligning ourselves with what is true, even if that truth stretches us or makes us uncomfortable. We align ourselves with truth. Take a deep breath in and releasing it out, knowing that we are safe in our pursuit of truth. Trusting the safety you feel in your body, trusting the safety with your mind, and knowing that at any point you can always ask for assistance in your journey in life. Taking a moment to acknowledge where you are in your journey of self. This life is all about your journey with self. Just taking a moment to acknowledge where you are and knowing that where you are is enough. Where you are is exactly where you're meant to be, given everything that's unfolded in your life and everything that is to come. Recognizing that this very present moment is the merging of your past and what is to come in your future. You are exactly where you need to be. Take a deep breath in and release it out. Coming back into our bodies, coming back into the room. Take another deep breath in. So we prepare our curious minds for learning and integration of knowledge, using our discernment to pick and choose what information resonates with us. Take another deep breath in. Be more and more conscious, more and more aware. You can begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes, as we arrive back in the present moment. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Shay, namaste. All right, all right. Maybe as you meditated, maybe you became aware of what your mind was doing. Maybe you became aware of discomforts in your body, or maybe you became aware of how good you felt, how present you felt, how calm your mind was. Awareness. Awareness is our first step in this series of shifting identity. Okay. Now, through self-reflection, we can discover awareness. I want to share a quote from Carl Jung. And this quote it hints to the work he's done in understanding the shadow self, which is an aspect of self-awareness. The quote reads, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." I'll repeat that again, and I'll also put it in the chat. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Okay. Now, this quote hints on the fact that if we go through our life unaware of what's happening in the background, then that what's happening in the background is going to be creating our life. And we're just going to think that, oh, this is just meant to be. But it's like, no, there's actually some things running in the background that you could change. Because as we've discussed in previous sessions, it's our beliefs that become the blueprints to our reality. So if in my subconscious mind, I have some beliefs of lack, fear, limitation, guilt, shame, and worthiness, if I have those beliefs running in the background, that's what's going to create my life. And it's just going to be what I'm going to perceive as fate. It's like, Man, I knew I could never succeed. I knew that no one would ever love me. It's fate. No, it's the beliefs that are running the background. So when we can take that stuff, the stuff in the shadows, and we bring it to the light and we become conscious of it, now we can say, when we step into a room and that voice comes up like, oh, you're not good enough, or people are judging you, we can be like, ah, that's that shadow. I'm going to stand up straight and I'm going to demand attention when I walk in this room because I know I'm worthy of it. No longer allowing the shadows to be running things. Okay. So the more we can delve into this concept of self-awareness, right? Which is not just becoming self-aware about our shadows, but of all aspects of ourselves. Self-awareness is a state of mind where one becomes conscious of one's beliefs, your views, your patterns, right? It's you just know what is happening. Okay. And I'll share a little bit later on different ways for us to build self-awareness. Okay. And until we truly and fully are aware of ourselves and we're operating as just a fraction of ourselves. Okay. So if you want to have the whole experience, you have to acknowledge all parts of yourself and be able to integrate and assimilate all those parts. This is another aspect of Carl Jung's shadow work, right? The shadow, it describes aspects of ourselves that we tend to deny, we tend to hide, we don't want to accept. So, for example, the shadow self could be your greedy tendencies, right? You might have some tendencies of greed. Most people don't know that you're a greedy person, but maybe whenever it's time to um, uh, volunteer, you have to kind of force yourself to volunteer because a part of you is very greedy with your time, right? Or maybe when somebody's asking you for money, there's this aspect of you that's like, no, I don't want to give you my money. I want to keep it for myself. But you might give them money because you realize that being greedy is not socially acceptable, but it's still a part of who you are that you're denying. But it's the moment that we can recognize, oh, okay, I am a little jealous. I am a little greedy. I am a little mean. I am a little this. I am a little that, right? These parts that were developed out of certain experiences that we had in life. We have to become aware of that. Because the moment we become aware of it, now it's no longer running things from the background. Okay. So why is self-awareness important? Okay. Because we want to be aware of not only our limitations, but we also want to be aware what our potential is. Without self-awareness, we don't know what our limitations or our potential is. Right. Without self-awareness, we don't really have a sense of who we individually and uniquely are in this world. When we aren't self-aware, we can walk around being confused. We can be frustrated by life, the challenges that happen in life because we don't understand why they're happening. This can lead to emotion dysregulation, being easily manipulated by others, maybe seeking to belong to certain religions or dogmas or ideologies because you don't have a sense of self. Maybe you're seeking a sense of self and stability in the wrong ways through drugs or unhealthy relationships. Maybe you begin to overly identify with material things or jobs or relationships. And ultimately, you might have difficulty understanding yourself in the world. And, we can easily see how this connect to anxiety, depression, putting ourselves in situations that cause us traumas. And at the end of the day, when you lack self-awareness, you're not going to be able to live out your purpose. Because one only discovers their purpose when they live in the truth of who they are. And if you're not aware of what the truth of who you are is, then how can you achieve that purpose? Okay. Now, some people tend to avoid self-awareness. And I will say some people on a cognitive level, it might be more difficult for them to be self-aware than others, right? Um, this is a frontal lobe, um, uh, a cognitive functioning of the frontal lobe, self-awareness, being able to monitor one's thinking, being able to have awareness of one's thinking. And what research at least shows is that the frontal lobe doesn't really turn completely online until age 25. So the years prior to that, that's why I see people doing a lot more risky, like, get into things. It's like, well, why are you doing this? And they don't really know why. A lot of impulsivity. Um, you'll see, teens go through fads of being emo to being, this and, all these different fads, right? Because people are trying to figure out who their identity is. And in doing so, there's not a lot of good judgment. Okay, because that part of the brain has been turned on. Yeah. So if we want to build self-awareness, especially if our goal is to be mentally and spiritually well and aligned, there has to be self-awareness. Because there has to be awareness of, this thought that I'm thinking is making me feel sad. It's not this person. It's the thought that I'm thinking about this person, or it's the thought that I'm thinking about the situation that's causing me to feel sad. So maybe if I change my thinking, I won't feel as sad. Maybe I'm not depressed. Maybe it's just the way that I'm thinking and behaving that is making me unhappy. That's self-awareness. Self-awareness does require a lot of responsibility. But I always tell people that, thank goodness, your life is your responsibility and nobody else's. Because otherwise, you'll be waiting your whole life for your life to get good. When in truth, the only one who can save us, the only one who can give us the life that we dream of is ourselves. And it requires us to become aware of what our limitations are as well as what our potentials are. So through things like introspection, right? Taking time to think, okay, why did I do this? Or what do I really want? Right? Introspection, asking ourselves those questions. Meditation, being still, being able to train our minds to become aware and objectively observe situations, being able to observe situations and ourselves without judgment, without preconceived information from the past, but to simply objectively observe something right now, humbly, as if we didn't know anything. Journaling can help us to build self-awareness. Okay. And through this meditation, introspection, and journaling, we can acknowledge some of our hidden traits, our fears, and our desires. Because these things are unique to you. These traits, these fears, and desires, they're unique to you. So it means that no one else can define these but yourself. So while I was doing some research on self-awareness, I came across a few different people who gave kind of their philosophy on how to develop self-awareness. And then I'll go over kind of what I've utilized in my own personal life when it comes to developing self-awareness, which is a continuous journey, right? One thing I've learned is that the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. There is so much that we do not know, which is a good thing because it gives us things to do while we're here on Earth. You're not going to finish it. You're not going to figure this whole thing out. You're not going to figure yourself out until maybe you leave. Once you get on the other side, you'll be able to be like, oh, okay. But while we're here, we have tons of things to keep us occupied. Okay. So one of the scholars that I came across, they gave the 5 stages of self-awareness. And the first stage that they identified was realizing how little one knows. Right. And I think this typically will come on the heels of a mistake or a failure, right? Realizing how little one knows. That's the first stage of self-awareness, is realizing I don't know everything, right? And at that point, now we become a learner again. We become curious, we begin to wonder. And that's a key aspect of self-awareness, is being willing to wonder, being willing to learn and find out. Our mind is open now. The next stage they had was understanding oneself. Now, this is something that we can go to therapy for. We can begin to understand our own patterns, our own relationships with others. Does this behavior align with my goals and my values? Okay, I have this behavior I do. Where did this behavior come from? Right, beginning to understand ourselves. The next stage, once we understand ourselves, was understanding social patterns. So understanding the external world and how we fit in that. How much of who we thought we were is based off of social patterns. You're good. Ooh, Bahrain. Them classes are no joke. I took one of those before and it humbled me. It quite humbled me. Yes, you're all good. So understanding social patterns and how much of who we are is being defined by these social patterns. The next stage the scholar defined was the fear of going crazy. Okay. Now, this is something that I have personally, I'm experienced in the sense where I'm just like, I am so glad that I am sane, because sometimes when you begin to discover how misled you've been, it can drive you mad. When you really begin to discover more of who you really are versus this version of you who might have been living and operating, once you really begin to look at your shadows, once you really, really look at this world, it can drive you crazy. It could drive some people crazy, right? That's why I say be careful before you activate that third eye, you unlock the Kundalini, because it is a lot. It is a lot to acknowledge. And even within the Discord, I have a red pill channel. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's locked. And it's only for those who really want to venture into that world of knowing some of the secrets of the world that we live in, because it is a lot. And I wouldn't just, it takes a lot of, there's responsibility that comes with that knowledge. You don't just give it out, because it is a lot, and we do have to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally, right? You wouldn't tell someone who is, currently going through a trauma and have them start doing shadow work. No, it's not the right time. They need to first stabilize their sense of safety and work on the problem at hand, which is that trauma. Then they can do shadow work once they're good, when they're in a good, mentally stable place, right? Okay. So, let's see, the next stage they had after going crazy is accepting human nature, and that you have the ability to control your narrative. So that was the final stage, was accepting that this is the human experience and I have the ability to control this narrative. I don't have to just let life happen. I can take responsibility and I can choose how this narrative goes. I don't have to be the victim anymore. I don't have to pretend to be a victim. Although it might be uncomfortable to take responsibility for my life, there's a certain outcome that I want. So I'm going to do what it's going to take to get that outcome. Yeah. All right. So then the next scholar, she provided, and I'll send these videos in the Discord for those who want to watch them. She provided her ABCs of awareness. So she provided A, B, C, and D. So to build self-awareness, you want to ask awareness-inducing questions, right? Someone always told me that life is about the questions you ask. When we were in school, they taught us to memorize. They didn't really teach us how to think. They taught us how to become employees, to become followers. They didn't teach us how to become thinkers and leaders. We have to learn how to begin to question things. Why? There's a technique in therapy called Socratic questioning. There's just somebody says something, why? Okay, why? And you keep going down until you really get to the root, the cause, right? So you wouldn't want to say, why, um, why do bad things always happen to me? You don't want to ask that because then your brain's going to generate reasons why good things shouldn't happen to you. Instead, you should ask the question, how can I make more good happen in my life? Those are the answers that are going to guide you and take you forward in your life. Okay. So her first one was ask awareness inducing questions. The second one was B, balance your perception of yourself. And by this, she meant gain objective awareness of yourself. This might mean you going to people who you trust and be like, hey, I'm working on self. What are some aspects of my personality? Don't worry about hurting my feelings, but what are some aspects of my personality that I could work on? Right. Or maybe going to a therapist, right? A therapist's job is to remain objective and to give you objective advice, right? Or maybe you can objectively observe your patterns over your life. Like what patterns do you have when it comes to relationships or work or, your dreams? Like what patterns are there? Your health, what patterns are there? Okay. C is choose your inspiring problems. Okay. Choose inspiring problems. Choose things that challenge you, that make you grow, right? E.T. the hip hop preacher always reminds us that life is going to be painful, but choose the pain that propels you forward, right? Instead of choosing the pain of having bad health, choose the pain of going to the gym. One of those is going to fare you better outcomes, right? Instead of the pain, the problem of being broke, choose a problem of trying to figure out how to learn a new skill that can get you paid. Okay. So choose your inspiring problems because as you go through these problems, whether it's going to the gym or trying to learn a new skill, you're going to face yourself. You're going to become more aware of your limitations and your potentials. Okay. And then her D for building self-awareness was determine your values. What is important to you? Not to your parents, not to your church, not to your siblings, your partner. What is important to you? And that's what should guide your life, your values. What do you value when it comes to your health, your relationships? What do you value when it comes to your time, your work, right? Your environment? What's important to you when it comes to those things in your life? And I have a goal setting worksheet I can share with you all that has your value. I broke it down into 7 different dimensions to identify what do you value in these 7 different dimensions, so that way you can construct your goals based off of that. Okay. All right. So now to briefly go over what the things that I've done to build self-awareness. And again, it's an ongoing process. My number 1 was commit to truth and learning. No matter how uncomfortable it gets, no matter how much it makes you detach from who you thought you were or what you knew, commit to truth and commit to learning. My second step was intentional reflection time. Intentionally taking time, putting it in your schedule to step away from the rat race, the noise of the world, and go into meditation, journaling, therapy, or prayer. Time, be intentional about your reflection time. My third was time in solitude. Solitude is so important. Solo travel by yourself, or just sit in your room, maybe just take a staycation and stay in your place or stay alone. But take that time to to kind of drop the thoughts of who you thought you were, what you think you want, all that, and just just simply be with self without any other influences. Or time in solitude, being out, go travel. See what you like to do when it's only you making that decision. The fourth key to building self-awareness is meditation, right? Obviously, the more we can become aware what the mind is doing, that's the key, is this awareness. So meditation is a tool we can use to practice noticing what the mind is doing, noticing what's happening in the body, noticing what our emotions are doing, what energies, that awareness, that ability to just observe. Number 5 I put was novel situations, right? When you put yourself in a novel situation, this is where the raw version of you comes to the forefront, because you've never been here before, right? So we can't go based off a past version. You put yourself in a novel situation, you're going to have to figure it out. You're getting out of that habit version of yourself, right? So learn a new skill, go to a new place, put on your clothes a different way. Novelty. Open yourself up to, so number 6 is open yourself up to feedback from others. Be social, right? Maybe this means going out on dates. Maybe you're not even looking for a partner, but you're just going out on dates just to experience yourself talking to other people, right? See how people interact with you. Number 7 was emotional healing, to discover truly who you are beyond the lens of pain and trauma and all those past experiences. Do that emotional healing so that way you can make sure the lens at which you are viewing this world is a clear lens. Then I had number 8, maybe? Ask the right questions. Okay. And I explained that before. Read books. Read books that stimulate the mind, right? Because this will make you start thinking a little bit differently. And the last one I had was develop empathy, the ability to understand the feelings of others, right? This helps you to connect to yourself, as above, so below. So the more we understand ourselves, the more we can understand others, the more we strive to understand others, the better we can understand ourselves. Okay. All right. So that was, I don't know how many those were total, but those are my those are mine for building self-awareness. Okay. All right. Now, let's see. Yeah, okay. So for homework, I must send out some reflection questions. These are going to be both to explore the shadows, but also just to stimulate ourselves in understanding more of who we are. Now, I want you guys to work on these questions over the next week. So that way, by the time we arrive at the next section of the series, you're kind of already worked through those questions. Okay. And I'll briefly go through the questions here. What desires do I have that I might be afraid or uncomfortable with acknowledging? And you don't have to write these down. I'll send them out. Actually, I can put these in the chat as well, but I'll put them in the Discord. What desires may I have that I'm afraid or uncomfortable with acknowledging? What aspects of my personality cause the most conflict with others? When I'm showing up as my most presentable, what traits do I tend to hide from others? What's my most uncomfortable fear? And what's one pattern of thought or behavior that I've struggled with for the longest time? Okay. Now, these questions are focusing more on the shadow side of the self-awareness piece. right? But you also might want to become aware of what are your gifts? What do people tend to really always compliment about you? Where do you typically tend to stand out among your peers? Okay, so I'll add those questions on there as well. And they always got to always be about the shadows. Okay. All right. So over the next week, let's explore those questions. So we're going to be doing the work as we're learning these things. Okay. All right. So now I'm gonna open up for any questions or comments about self-awareness. And like I said, there's some videos that I'll share in the Discord to further assist in this learning. Yeah. All right. Any questions or comments?
I can say one thing you said that I was like, oh my God. You said you're not gonna finish it. And I think that that is um such a good like reminder. Uh because I think even when I feel, well, I guess I think about death a lot, but in a good way, where it's like I think about the fact that we're all going to die in this phase, right? And so um if we keep that in mind, then you don't have time, essentially, to just think and believe that you can do like you can do it later. Like you're just gonna keep pushing things off. And so I also love the idea that you're not going to finish it, because I think a lot of conversations, at least that I've had recently, have been with people like trying to, oh, I'll just stay a few more minutes. I'll just do a little bit more. Like, let me just do this last thing and then I'll go and like live my life. And I think I used to be very much in that same space and was able to kind of shift into um like the work will still be there. Like that became my new mantra. I'm like, the work it'll be here on Monday. It's fine. Right? Like I can put this down now, because even if I do this now, there will be something else for me to do. And so there really is like, you're not going to finish it. Like it's just, you're literally going as far and as long as you can until you're done. And so I just I just love that phrasing, honestly. Just because I think about that often, about having to decide like where you're going to spend your energy, where you're going to spend your time, and also understanding that your time is limited. As much as like we think we have so much, and it's all, you never know when it's going to get cut off. And so it's just, choose the things you're going to do, because you don't want to spend your time doing the things that you don't want to do. So choose the things that you want to do, and know that whatever you choose to do, you're not going to finish. Just like spend your time doing as much as possible of the things that you enjoy. And so, yeah, I really like that.
Ashe, Ashe. It's so liberating. It's so
Mm-hmm.
liberating to know, and it requires a high level of self-awareness to say, because I don't have unlimited time in this physical existence, I need to start choosing, and I need to start making sure that what I'm doing is satisfying to me.
Mm-hmm.
It is working towards, something greater that I believe in. It is aligned with my values. The time I'm spending is truly aligned with my values. If it's not, the more effort you're putting into things that aren't aligned with your values and desires, the more miserable you will be. And a lot of people are denying how miserable they are because they're not
Mm-hmm.
willing to shift their life into doing things that actually align with what they value and what they desire. Or some people don't even know what that truly is because they haven't taken the time to define who they truly are outside of other people's influences. But yeah, I think it's great to think that. I think it's highly motivating to realize that you will not be here forever, you know. You will not be here forever. So as much as you can, try your best not to waste any of that time on things that do not fulfill the truth of who you are. A shame. Yes. All right. Lewis, did you have anything you wanted to add or any questions you had?
Yes, in the beginning of your talk, you mentioned that something of the nature where that it was like you said something that the more that you were self-aware, well then the more well then that will allow you to find your purpose in life, or it was something like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's with me, it's like I have just started to learn how to be self-aware. Now, I would say in this, I would say of my life in this past maybe really this past 2 years, and so I guess long story short is that I've yet to find my purpose, and it's kind of frustrating, like the other day I was thinking about it, like like during the day when I um what was applying for jobs, and just the thought of, I mean, just applying for jobs, I mean, I'm doing it, but it's not something that I desire or want, I want to I want to have my own business, so that I can I can have control and do what I want to do and how to do it and when I want to do it, you know. But that have yet to come, and so it's just the thought. I mean, just the thought of working for somebody else, and also like, out of all the skills that I have and that I have acquired over the years have been many, and so I had to put effort into fixing my resume so that my resume fits a certain investing or or like fa, like a financial job, which I like, but it's just that like I have yet to find my purpose, or my true passion, and
Mm-hmm.
so um, the other day, I was journaling and just contemplating, um, my identity, and the person and the thing that formed my identity, and this person that has to be perfect and successful and make over 6 figures and be fluent and all this stuff, But I guess to sum it up, like I bought myself present and just am thankful, for what I have, and I put the rest in God's hands,
Mm-hmm.
So like I can only do one thing at a time, and so right now I'm focusing on getting a job, and when I get a job, I will earn more money, and I will be able to enjoy the things that requires money, such as traveling. know, I mean, so it is what it is, and right now, like I'm just learning how to just accept it,
Mm-hmm.
and just one thing at a time, you know.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the accept part, Life is about just kind of going with the flow. Nature doesn't go against the resistance, it just goes with the flow. And it might be some body or some concept or some skill within this new job that unlocks that purpose for you, you know? So we never really know. This is the part we have to humble ourselves. We never really know what direction our life is going to take us. So we go humbly, right? We never say we're too good for something or we're beyond something, we just go with the flow. And but at the same time, know where you want to go, right? So go with the flow, but still know like this desire, this dream was put in me. So I want to see it through, or I want to see the highest version of it through. So oftentimes when I pray or when I, say what I want to manifest, I'll ask for the highest version of it. Don't give me, I don't want this kind of man. I want the highest version of a relationship for me in this lifetime. And what that, whatever that looks like. Right. Um, but allowing ourselves to go with the flow and realizing that over time, even my purpose is still being defined. Like I find like I'm moving from being a therapist to working in this community, to doing, ceremonial things. It's still evolving. But what I do know about my purpose, it is self-healing, self-actualization. That's a part of all of our purpose, is self-actualization. So you continue to prioritize unlocking the truth of who Lewis is, and naturally the purpose will be defined. You continue to tear away all the covers and the layers and all the false beliefs, all that stuff. The truth, the purpose of who you are is naturally going to come to the surface. Right. And I would definitely, if you have never worked with an astrologer, I have some good ones to work with, because this stuff is written in your chart as well. It is written in your chart. You find somebody who really knows how to read your astrology chart, it's written in your chart. It can definitely give you some good insights to understand maybe why, your career is where it is right now at this point in your life, or why you had the certain circumstances that you had growing up in your life. It's written in the stars. That's why they say that. Okay. But yes, yes, yes. Just the relief is in knowing that our biggest work to do in this life and our most important work to do in this life is to know thyself. And it starts with healing. We have a lot of things to heal, and that will help us to get to know.
Mm-hmm. There was like what you were saying, Nikita, and also what you were saying, Lewis, about like the acceptance piece of like you're on this path, and it's like, even though, because the purpose question is the hardest one, like, and I think that's the one that I feel like I journal or I write things down. I'm just like, at what point is this going to show up and tell me? Like, so like it's clear, because I feel like sometimes like I think it's this, but is it? And so there's just this notion though that you're on this path, and even though you don't know it, you're still walking. Like you're still continuing on, even though it's unclear. Um, and then it's also recognizing that while you're on this path and you're not entirely sure, there are things and elements that pop up that you're like, oh, and you stop, and there's a certain flower that you stop by. And it's just like, why did you choose that flower versus another flower? And it's kind of like this journey piece is like still tapping into all of the stuff that you're not yet quite sure, but you know that there's some things that you gravitate to. And I know that we'll get into this as you keep going through the identity shifting conversation, but there's a piece of it that's also in this present space of like, before you're at the point where you can do the travel thing, right? When you talk about like, you think about this future state of travel, there's also the piece of what can you do for that now, it without having the money that you think you need to do that piece. So if I want to go to Italy, but that's not in the cards for me now. I like, for example, I went to dinner with a friend of mine and she was like, oh, let's go to Little Italy. And I'm like, Little Italy? I'm like, there's no Little Italy in the Bronx. Apparently, there's Little Italy in the Bronx. I found this out 2 days ago. And so we go and I had the most amazing meal. And I was just like, I didn't even know this was here. And so it's closer than it seems. And so sometimes it's just like tapping into, where are all the free events? Because there are a ton. And I know that's warmer weather where you are, so you could definitely go outside. And so it's like looking at the options for the life that you're expecting to live in the future and finding the ways to like, do that now. I already know for myself, I like to travel, but I don't necessarily like to go outside and like, I'm not a, what is it called? I'm not a market, uh, I'm not a farmer's market girl where it's like, oh yeah, let's go to the farmer's market and walk around and see. I don't, I don't really love doing that. But I know that if I go somewhere, I'm like, no, I want to go somewhere and relax. Like I want to go and sit and watch things, maybe go for a walk. Like I am very clear that that's like what I gravitate towards. And so that means that I don't expect myself to then become one of those people because that's what's the look or that's what people do. I'm like, I actually don't like to do that. So I don't do it. But I also know that when I go places and I also think about the stuff that I do when I'm home is the same thing as I'm going to be looking to do where I go, wherever I'm going. And so that's going to be something that I think about for like how I plan, like how I show up or the things that I go and do. It's like, what do I really want? And then how does it look for me? And that's how like I move through it. But yeah, I'm very excited to keep talking about this because this has been the topic that has kind of come up for me a lot over the summer. And I feel like this really helped me shift into the decision to do the coaching. Like for me, like like me committing to it, a lot of it had to do with kind of acknowledging like where I'm at and what I want it to look like and what I want it to be. And just kind of recognizing that it's not about this, it's not going to show itself in some perfectly full color dimensional way. It's going to kind of like spark, I guess, and that's going to be the way that I'll figure it out. So yeah.
Yes, we gotta earn the right to be ourselves. Somebody told me that you gotta earn the right. You gotta put those pieces together, So beautifully said. You inspired some more questions that I'll add to the Discord about one. I think we should have started with who do I want to shift into? So I want us to first reflect on that. Before we get into all those shadow work questions, first reflect on who are you shifting into? Okay. And the questions that Crystal inspired was like, who am I? What do I like to do? Where do I like to go? Let's start there basic. Let's start with those things. Okay. Just kind of even if you're not sure, you're writing down, you're like, I really don't, just write it down. Maybe give yourself a timer, maybe give yourself like, you know, 3 minutes to write who you're shifting into, another 3 minutes to write who you are, what you like to do, where you like to go, right? So that way it's just automatic. You're not thinking too much. You're just writing it down. Okay. Now, if you want to send a picture, you don't have to send what you wrote, but if you want to send a picture just to show that you did that activity, that way it'll help to hold everyone else accountable. Do that. And I'll write the instructions in the Discord too for that. But beautiful. Yes. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about this, about us really being, because like I mentioned in the meditation, this present moment, it's the merging of the past and the future. So that future version of you, it does exist. There's multiple future versions of you that exist. And it's all based off of what you do here in the present moment, right? The past is already the past. But what we're doing here in the present moment is aligning us with one of those future versions of ourselves, but it already exists. So know that version of you, Lewis, that knows his purpose and is living in his purpose, who has this amazing gym app that's changing the world, and that's out there. And Crystal, there's this version of you who's like this coach, and people are paying you thousands and thousands of dollars to work with you, and they're trying to, invite you to speak all over the world. That version already exists. It's shifting the mind into that version right now. And there's this movie that I love. I'm always telling everybody about. It's called Everything All the Time, All at Once, something like that. It's on Netflix, I think. Yeah, is that what it's called? But I think it's Everything All at Once, Everything All, I don't know, something like that.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yes, yes, thank
Mhm.
you. I love that movie. I love that movie. It's about tapping in to different realities and pulling in that version, that power into the present moment. Right. So if you haven't seen it, go check that movie out. But that's what we can do because, like I said, those that future versions of us, they all exist, and we can tap into that at any point in time and make that the present reality. Your cells of your body respond to it. And even more scientific evidence to support this is people with the dissociative identity disorder. When they're in one personality, their biology matches that one, right? They might be in a personality that has bad eyesight. So now they wear glasses. They shift to a different personality who has diabetes. Their body now has an insulin deficiency. They shift to another personality where they're a child and now their body embodies the DNA of a child. This is all scientific evidence shows that this. So we can do that too. You see yourself as that version of yourself that you want to be, your biology will begin to shift into that. You don't have to maintain the past version of you. Okay. All right. So, all right. All right. So, any other questions or comments on this topic? I know we could probably talk forever on this. We got some homework to do, some resources to tap into, some movies to watch if you haven't already. Definitely tap into that. All right, all right. So it seems like that is it for this session of Soul Powerful Saturdays, our mindset and meditation. Um, like I said, I'll be posting everything in the Discord. If you have if you come across any resources, feel free to share them, and then we'll continue the series next Saturday.